So, who's that?
Guys, welcome back to the channel. It's about Remain the Trucker. I know you guys saw the thumbnail. I'm not kidding. It's for real. No clickbait. I am leaving Prime. This video, I should have made this video about a week ago. I already gave my fleet manager my 2 weeks notice. This is my last week working for Prime Inc.
Man.
There are no issues. You know, Prime has been a good company for me so far. I decided to do this video, man, in my vest because I still can remember the first day when I get this vest. And they say, you know, it's time for PSD training. I am going to a new company. Yes, when I get to that new company and I do all the orientation, I have orientation next week. I will be a company driver at the next company. You know, I kind of miss Prime already, to be honest with you. Kind of miss Prime. But, you know, we have to move on sometimes. I'm getting a job where I get a little pay increase, so that's good.
That is
massive
good.
pay increase. Company.
That's real
It's a known company. They have about 400 trucks.
Yeah.
Guaranteed miles. Guaranteed. I say guaranteed. Guaranteed a steady paycheck every week. I've been getting a steady paycheck at Prime, but I'm getting an increase. I've been at Prime for what? 1 year and about 4 months now. When you come to Prime Trucking School, you can, you know, they help you with the CDL, and you can give them a year so you don't have to pay them back for that school. I completed a year about 4 months ago, but I was still here doing my thing, and I'm like, you know what? Let's get something else, a different job. We have to get some more money because, you know, with trucking, experience equal money. So I found a new company. Actually, I just got off the phone with the recruiter again. She called me and just confirming that I'm still coming to orientation. If she's supposed to book me a flight to fly there, it's in Texas. They have a main terminal in Texas. Or she can get me a rental car, whatever I decide to do. If I'm leaving from Pennsylvania or I'm leaving from Missouri terminal, let her know. So, yeah, man, I'm gonna miss Prime, man. Prime is a good company. If you're a new driver, you want to learn trucking, I highly recommend coming to Prime Inc.
Yeah.
You will learn what you need to learn. And I think it's that.
You know, that's what I think about too. Like if you are a new driver, you know, and you're just getting your CEL, it's going to do what it's supposed to do. You're going to get your CDL. You're going to learn how to back for the most part, bumper dock. You know, you're going to be with your trainer for, I think, 50,000 miles. So that's going to help.
Time when I have to make that next step, man. I have to make that next step. I haven't been dropping video for a while because, you know, I was thinking about leaving and stuff, and everything worked out. A couple of Prime drivers there at that company, and, you know, they recommended to me and said, hey, you know, it's good over here to come through. So I am going over there. A friend of mine, she recommended this to me. I don't know if she wanted me to mention her name in this video, but she recommended this company to me. She works for Prime as well.
Good.
And yeah, that person been giving me a lot of insight when I just started trucking, tell me what to expect, what not to expect, what's a good move, what's not a good move. You know, and I followed that, and Prime was a success.
You know, it's always good to have a mentor, you know, that you can talk to throughout the process, throughout your trucking career, really. Not even just the first 2-3 years, but throughout your whole career, just have a mentor who you can tap into. Shoot, I talk to my mentor all the time. They get an update on how they're maneuvering out there, if they see anything different, you know, what's the climate, how they're seeing things, you know. It's always good to get some insight, because there's levels to this thing. I promise you, because the way that a person who is at year 1 gonna see things different from year 15, year 15, year 20, right? And after that, it's probably about all the same after year 20, man. But you're gonna see some things that's different. So reach out to your mentor, get a good mentor out there that you can talk to, get some insight.
That's for me. And a lot of stuff been going on with me also since lately, man. Like, I have a crazy, 24 hours. Crazy 24 hours.
Keep
Yep,
a good stand.
crazy. I don't know if it's because I'm leaving, but I hit a deer the other night, night before last night. Crazy 48 hours, rather. I killed a deer. I was driving south on I-65, driving cruise, dark as hell, but I got my lights on. I beam when it's necessary. When the other cars come in low beam, but was on low beam rolling, and I just saw a deer right in front of my truck out of nowhere. I'm like, what the hell?
The one thing about this dude right here, he's gonna keep a story going. Okay, here's a person who left and came back. That's what they got to say.
Welcome back to the Trucking ESD YouTube channel, where we're trucking every day. So today I'm going to talk about why I left Swift, why I came back to Prime, and how I was able to come back to Prime. Because I know a lot of you were surprised that Prime took me back after everything I said.
Hold on, this guy.
Customer 75.
I didn't leave Swift because I wasn't making money. I didn't leave Swift
Please proceed to shout
two because I wasn't doing good. I mean, it was first quarter of the year, so things were a little slow. I was on the struggle bus, but not anything bad enough to where I felt I needed to leave because I wasn't making money. I left because they wanted to, well, they didn't want to, they did suspend my training status for 6 months because of my student running a red light. So the story is, middle of the night, students driving, I'm in the back sleeping, going through a town, coming out of the town where it's 45 miles an hour, coming up on a green light. It wasn't a stale green, hadn't been green for very long, because I've seen the video, they showed me the video. The Swift had, at that time, outward facing cameras, and I guess now they're switching to the same thing Prime has, where it's in and out. But light hadn't been green that long, so he wasn't worried about a stale green light, because I talked to him about it and asked him what the hell happened. And he was coming up on the green, had about maybe a truck length and a half.
I would say this too, right? If you're the type of person who left and want to come back, right, it's good to know that Prime is always welcome. He's willing to welcome you back. As long as you got a good driving record and you can humble yourself and kiss the rain, come on back.
A half, light turns yellow on him, and literally 3 seconds later, light turns red. He was slowing down. He tried to slow down, but there was no way he was going to slow down without locking up the brakes. So he ended up going through the red light. So Swift feels that because he ran a red light, that I need to lose my training status for 6 months for something that I didn't do. I had no control over because I was sleeping. I mean, he did what he could to protect himself and the motoring public. I mean, there was no one else around him. Luckily, I mean, in the middle of the night, there was no one on the road. But as he was slowing down, he was looking both ways, hitting the air horn just to get, if there was someone there, to get their attention so they could see, hey, this dude's not going to stop. I'm not going to pull out in front of him. But Swift wanted to suspend me. Well, they did suspend me for 6 months from training for something I had no control over. Tell me what you think. Do you think what Swift did was right? Put it down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Because suspending me for something I had no control over didn't make sense to me. So I said, no, we're not going to play this game. You're not going to mess with my livelihood and my money because of something I didn't do. I can understand if it was something I did, then yeah, you know what? If you have a trainer that's making that kind
of getting suspended over what your student did, I guess that you are responsible for your student, but that's the pitfalls of training, right? Like, you are responsible for that body in the truck. Even over there at Prime, right? Like you're gonna have to pay his wages or her wages, right? You are responsible for it. So it's like you're gonna be jumping out of the pot and into the fire. Pick the poison, right? So is it right? You know, the object of these trucking companies is to make money and minimize cost. So that's just one expense, right? How they can minimize cost. So it ain't about you. It's about that green. It ain't white. It ain't black. It ain't brown. No race, color, or creed. Whatever that make that green, that's what they mean, baby.
A mistake, then maybe they shouldn't be training. But because it wasn't something I did, that doesn't make sense to me. So they told me this. I finished up my student, and because my student only had like a week and a half left. So in that week and a half time, I figured, you know what? I still want to train. Maybe I can go back to Prime. Because I like training. I like helping people learn this business. I like helping people learn this business in a safe manner. I know there's other companies I could have went to where I could train, but a lot of those companies, they want you as the trainer to be in that passenger seat the entire time. There's no chance of running as a team or running as a super solo. That truck is a solo truck. You just sit in that passenger seat the entire time while that trainee drives, and I can't do that. You ask me to sit in that passenger seat for a month, 2-3 months at a time, I can't do that. I'd go insane. Like with Swift.
Hey, Trucker Richie Rich was asking, what happened to Everly? He is right back at Prime Inc. I'm one. Richie Rich, are you next? Will you be back?
First 50 hours you have your student, you had to be in the passenger seat for their first 50 hours driving. Anytime they drove, you had to be in the passenger seat if it was under 50 hours. So if you have a good student that takes to it really quick and can start busting out 9, 10, 11-hour days real quick, you can get through that 50 hours in a week. But if you have a student that's struggling, can only do 4 or 5 hours a day and slowly working up, you may be in that passenger seat for 10 days. 10 days sitting there watching someone else drive? No, I'm good. I go crazy. I did go crazy. So when I talk to these other companies, they're saying, oh yeah, well, we don't let our trainers drive. They just sit in the they have to sit in the passenger seat and teach and tell them what they're doing, what they need to do, what they're doing wrong, stuff like that. I can't do that for 2 3 months at a time. I mean, even if I drove a couple hours a day, couldn't do it. But I knew at Prime, I know how the training program works. So I figured, you know what? It can't hurt to try to see if I can come back. Put in my application on a Friday. Actually, I think it was a Thursday. I talked to my recruiter Friday. She said she was going to start the process and put my file in front of the rehire board to see if they would approve me for rehire. On Monday, I got a call from my old fleet manager. And first thing out of his mouth, after saying hi, nice to talk to you again, was, what was with the YouTube videos? Why did you go on that rampage on YouTube about Prime? And I told him why I said what I said, and I flat out told him the truth. What I said was true. Nothing I said in any of my videos was a lie. At that point in time, those were the struggles I was having with Prime. Those were the stories of what I dealt with Prime. So I didn't lie about anything. I told my side of the story. I told the truth.
Because I was about to ask, like, okay, what about those videos from the past? I'm glad that he's going in on that.
And that, in the end, the only reason that my videos about Prime took off was because I just happened to release those videos at the same time that Prime went public about the inward-facing camera. So when people were searching Prime, they were seeing those videos and they were seeing my videos. So it was dumb luck that my videos got any traction and that people got to see them. And I told him that's what it was. This is why it happened. I was telling my side of the story. Nothing I said was a lie. And he understood where I was coming from, and we had to talk about how I should have better handled it. And I agreed I should have handled it better, stuff like that. And he said that
Oh, that's good, man. Him and his old fleet manager, they patched things up. That's good. See, and that's what I want to experience as well, because it's not all bad, right? And I think a lot of times, and I was on TikTok the other night, and this one female driver, yeah, this one female driver, she was like, if you're thinking about quitting your job or quitting trucking, don't. If you're thinking about switching companies, don't. I just read the comment. Um, she said, don't, right? She said, go home for 2 weeks. She said, after you take those 2 weeks off, I bet you'll be ready to come back in. I took her advice, man. I went home for not quite 2 weeks, but I went home for like 5 days. And after 5 days, ready to get back to work. Like, I also deleted all the videos. But, that's wild. Like, I saw all the videos too because he was going in. I mean, it was very dramatic and everything. All right, I'm released right now, solo department company right now. And it's tough out here. They are shifting trucks from state to state to get loads. Basically maxing out my 7. Man. Just gonna get back to the video. I left and came back.
Wasn't gonna guarantee that they would rehire me. He really doubted they would rehire me, but he would go forth and try to put in a good word and fight for me to be able to get my job back. So that was Monday. About Tuesday morning, probably mid-morning, I got an email saying that I was approved and ready to, whenever I was ready, I could go to orientation. I saw that and that's cool. I'm gonna go back to Prime. It's a done deal.
The thing is about Everlay, he's the type of guy. He seems like he would make a irrational move if the money ain't right. He'll jump ship on it, man. If money ain't right, he's gonna jump ship. So, shout out to
Back
Everlay.
to Prime. Called my fleet manager back, told him, hey, thank you for whatever you said or whatever you did because they said I could come back. A week and a half later, I was sitting in Springfield in orientation. So I finished up my student with Swift. I wasn't going to leave him high and dry and having to go out with another trainer for 3 days just to complete his training. So I finished him up. I dropped him off at the Swift's Memphis terminal. Asked for a load to Kansas City because Swift also has a terminal in Edwardsville, Kansas. They got me a load out to Kansas, delivered that, got another load back to Kansas City, went to Edwardsville, delivered my load, got a rental car, and I was sitting in orientation a week and a half later. And here I am, back at Prime. I've been back at Prime now for probably 40 days. I just finished my TNT PSD instructor course today. Got my first PSD student picking up tomorrow.
I know that's right,
and
man.
I'm happy.
Boy, he did all that. I wish, guys, I wish I could go back and pull up some of his videos from the past, how much he said he was hating, training at Prime. Right back at Prime. Where's my load board? This guy. There we go. All right, we back. All right.
76. Your shower is ready. Please proceed to shower 1.
Well, he's a rookie. You know what I'm saying? We ain't really gotta go into him. Let's see if he can give some insight because he's been at Prime for a minute. Wow. Talk about it. Hmm.
Y'all know why you're at Prime right now.
If y'all know this guy, let me know.
Let's start off with revenue. All drivers aren't facing the same things when it comes to revenue.
Hmm.
Like me personally, I'm not. But there are drivers that are. And a lot of drivers are leaving Prime because of revenue. They're not making the money. For the most part, it's not. I wouldn't say owner operators. I say for the most part, it's lease operators. They're not making.
So, guys, is that true? Is this revenue that's holding drivers back or making drivers leave? Is the lack thereof revenue? Let me know.
The money they need to make. Um, a lot of them, they have their expenses at home are too high. They're spending way too much money. Like I say, man, I be trying to tell y'all, get y'all expenses at home low as possible. If you don't need something, get rid of it. Like a car or something, you can go get a cash car. You can make the money pretty quick to grab a cash car, bro. You ain't got to buy a $10,000 car. Go buy a little $5,000 car, bro. You ain't home that much. If you home that much, I mean, that's another reason why your revenue is low. You're home a lot. You run the business, but you want to be home all the time. You want to be home all the time. Just get you a local job. But yeah, a lot of drivers are having issues with revenue. They don't know the steps in order to change fleet managers. A lot of things like that, man.
All right, look, is he spitting game or what? Because he's talking about a lot of drivers leaving because of lack of revenue, high overhead. All of this is stuff that we already know and that we deal with anyway. Um, but I guess when freight isn't coming like it's supposed to, you're gonna have to trim the fat somehow. He bought his truck from Pedigree. It has a okay. We could put that on screen. I think that makes a big difference as well. I have a truck with a very low payment as well. So that makes a big difference when, let's just say, you go from a payment that's $4,000 a month to maybe $1,800 a month. That's a real big drop off. You're right. Just another trader. That's absolutely right, bro.
But they're also not running like I wouldn't say correctly,
Mhm.
but the reason their revenue is so low is because they lightly gag, bro.
Oh,
As soon as my clock reset, I'm gone. And it also depends on the freaking the 90 when it comes to that. I mean, because some places you're not gonna get empty early. Like Walmart, let's just say the Walmart. If you got a live unload, you can only get there an hour early. You can't do that with everybody. But they're not getting to these they're not getting to these shippers receiving trying to see if they can get loaded early or unloaded early. They're not doing that. They're waiting until around the appointment time. Then they go in. You know that the trucks that get
so does that make a big difference, guys? Whether you get to a shipper or a receiver um, at a certain time, like if you get there early, try to get unloaded early, or you know, how I heard another driver say, bet on yourself. Is that still a thing? Does that even matter? Let me know. Let me know.
the trucks that get let me put it like this. It's a number of trucks on the board. The trucks that empty first get that load first. That's how it works. If they got an abundance of loads in that area, that's when they have a pre-plan for you. They filled all the other trucks in that area, and there's some extra loads on that board. Then that's when they send the pre-plan out. But it's not before it's not before that. If drivers are in that area and they get unloaded before you and they're empty on the board, they're the ones that are going to get that load.
So what he's saying is that drivers basically, there's a lot of new drivers that come in and they don't know how to be a truck driver. They don't know how to work their clock. They don't know how to communicate with the customers. They don't know how to do all of the small things to really maximize. It sounds like that's what he's saying.
I wouldn't say they get the best loads. I mean, but
But you know what? Once upon a time, you didn't have to do that. Though. Damn, that's the thing, right? Like once upon a time, you could just kind of lollygag, right? Stay in your bunk for maybe 11 hours, maybe even 12, and still have a pretty decent week.
they're going to get a load.
And I think that's where a lot of drivers are struggling to make that transition from that to where we are now.
They have the option to accept or decline that load.
Yeah, let me know what
And
y'all think.
They might get a better load. You never know, bro. You never know with that.
Mhm.
But yeah, a lot of drivers aren't seeing the revenue right now.
Money.
That's one of the reasons a lot of drivers are leaving, bro. They're leaving Prime, going to other companies. But you got to take into account how much home time you take, bro. If you don't have an emergency flight, you going in the hole that week, so you might not make money for like, well, with lease, you might not make money for like a few weeks. And you can't just be mad because now you don't make money for a few weeks because you decided to go home and you didn't do it the correct way. Which I tell people, when I was lease operator, I went home on I scheduled my home time for Friday. I scheduled my home time for Saturday. I think I scheduled my home time for like Saturdays, and I would come back out on a Monday. So I get Saturday, Sunday. Oh, did I do that? No, I was scheduling for Friday. Okay. I schedule for Friday, so I'll get Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I get those 3 days at home, and I come out on Monday. For a lot of people, that's not for a lot of people that's not enough, but it was enough for me. And with that, I was able to get like maybe 1 or 2 loads in for that week, and it'd normally even out. That's how I ran. That's how I ran when I was lease operator. That's when I.
Okay. Let's read this comment right here. Just another trader. What I notice is sometimes I get a good paying load. You will see plenty of prime company drivers there. Okay. They drive the smaller trucks. So would they be at the receiver or the shipper? Is my question. Would they be at the shipper or the receiver or both? Because I know some of these truck stops that I do go to, like I was in Pageland, South Carolina, and I swear there were probably about 8 prime trucks there. No lie. And then there was like another one pulling up. It was crazy. I was like, wow, I've never seen that many prime trucks in this area at once, just parked like that.
When I did take home time, so that's how I stayed out of the negative for a while. If I get into the negative, I was it's only like $100-200, which ain't bad. I can normally get you. I mean, you should be able to get out of that the next week, unless you got a breakdown or something like that. But yeah, I was doing pretty good as a lease operator, bro. My work ethic, everybody's work ethic ain't the same. But another reason that drivers are leaving Prime right now.
Okay.
The camera situation. A lot of drivers do not want a driver-facing camera.
Yeah.
And it's understandable. I personally don't want a driver-facing camera, but push come to shove, I'm just like fed up with it. Like I don't. If I'm just like fed up with it, I'll just go to different companies. To be honest, I can take my truck with me. So that'd be cool with me. I just leave Prime and take my truck with me. But a lot of drivers, I don't know, bro. The camera situation is crazy. A lot of drivers do not want to drive facing camera. I'm gonna say the majority of the world does not want to drive facing camera. Cause it's like, I don't want nobody to look at me 24/7. I mean, it's just one more thing that I gotta look at. Like you got drivers gonna be constantly staring at that camera. I mean, that's another accident waiting to happen because they're so focused on like, are they looking at me right now? Like, I mean, Prime say they don't do live or whatnot. I mean, if you want to believe that, you can believe that. It's not. I mean, you can say that, but it's like Prime has lied about a lot of other things. This ain't the first time. This ain't the first time. So you got to think about that, bro. You got to think about that. You got to think about. I'm trying in my head to think about what have they lied about. Oh, cameras. I mean, they even lied about the camera situation.
Oh
There will
no.
never be any cameras in the truck.
Okay, that's the kicker right there, right? Because I even seen the video myself. Because because people done clipped it up and chopped it up and said, "Yo, there will be no cameras in the truck." As a matter of fact, let's see if we can pull that up, man. Maybe it'll come up as a clip or something like that, as a short. Let's see. Prime says no cameras. If I can't find anything immediately. Yep, yep, nothing immediately. But yeah, man, the safety manager had reported no cameras, and then a few months later, here is a camera. Let's see. Here go my main man. No hippie trucking and transportation. Most of the people I talk to, which is a lot, are more concerned about the culture than the money. Hey, that's a fact though, trucker. I mean, no hippie because the culture has shifted at Prime, right? It's way, way different from what it used to be. So let me ask you this question, no hippie trucker, since you're watching, man. Thanks for watching too. Why why is there a shift, right? Like why is there such a drastic change? Like what happened? Like what's going on there? Like can you speak on that? Like why has there been a culture shift and what's happening over there, right? Is it upper management? Is it um, new ownership? Is like speak on that.
Y'all see, that was not the case. They lied about that, bro. Now they have cameras in the truck. It's like I don't know, bro. If it was like a requirement by the I
DOT.
guess FMCSA, if it was a requirement by them, that'd be one thing, but it's not. And you see, we're getting cameras put in the truck. But I mean, that's also to blame a lot of drivers. They don't pay attention. They don't freaking they always mess up. Like, bro, you got drivers that are freaking they're not wearing seatbelts. Like stupid stuff. Like, bro, why are you getting seatbelt tickets, bro?
Right.
Like, if you get a seatbelt ticket, that should be one and gone. I would fire people if you ain't got no seatbelt on. Cause it's like, bro, what are you doing?
I'll go for that.
If you ride in the yard without a seatbelt on, that's one thing. But if you ride on public roads without a seatbelt, it's like, bro, what are you doing?
I'll
Like,
go
what are
for
you doing?
that.
Like, bro,
That's true.
I mean, like, what?
You know what I think at Prime Inc. What's really going on? They're like changing their hey, no hippie. Like if you can come up on camera, let me see if I can post the link. You know what I'm saying? Cause yeah, just posted the link. See if you can't hit that link, man. You know what? I think with Prime Inc. they're switching over from being just a trucking company. They're changing their business model, and Prime still has a lot of old school drivers who still remember how things were. Back in the day, it's kind of like with Thanos, right? When he says like when he snapped his finger and wipe out half the universe, you will still have half of the people who knew what it once was back in the day. So they'll be complaining about how things were, back in the day. All right, let's go back to this right here. Just another trader. He says, absolutely. I drove for Prime when I first got my CDL back in '06 and '09. You could not see another driver without saying hi. Yeah, we all pretty much had those jackets. I know that's right, man. You know what? I had my jacket, but I never did pick it up, man. I had got it made. I hate that I left it. Oh, it was those jackets were pretty damn snazzy too. All right, let's see what else he got to say, and then we're gonna go to
How you
Road
get a seatbelt
Runner
ticket, bro? That's like
Nia.
that's crazy. That's crazy. So I would definitely have to fire people. They got a seatbelt ticket. I would get you up out of there. 'Cause it's like, bro, if you can't even put on a seatbelt, what else are you not doing? But yeah, it's still. I mean, we got drivers just freaking. They speed through like small towns. Like, come on, bro. Why are you speeding through a small town, bro? Why? It don't. I mean, like, what are you trying to do? You have enough time on your load, so
All right, let's check out Road Runner Nia. All right.
What is up, you guys? It is like 11 p.m. currently. I'm in New London, Wisconsin at a Tyson. And I don't know if you guys, can you see my,
And Road Runner Nia, like, she's a nice chick for the most part, right? Like, I don't see her doing anything crazy and talking crazy, right? I really don't, man. She seems like she kind of play by the rules, if you will. Let me see. Let's go back here.
it doesn't even look like y'all can see. It is literally negatives. I came here yesterday. Last night I got in, I delivered to this Tyson and we picked up as well. They just loaded me, so yeah. Oh, duh, as y'all see by the title.
Yeah, we do.
Am I gonna be able to even do my landing gear? What the hell? Yeah, I swear. These Tyson facilities just know how to irritate me. I delivered, oh my God, I literally can't even stand behind. I'm having to do it like this, you guys. Okay, this is annoying. I might pull it out to do the rest because.
Let's see if she says something around by here, though.
Start her up and see, let her run for a little bit. She looks clean. Oh, I did wash her before I left. Oh, look at this little crackhead. Come. Come. Don't eat nothing. Ow. God. Yo, they had me drop my trailer in the bay, so I didn't get a truck wash because they dropped my trailer and I'm not going to pay like $40 for a shitty wash.
There you go.
My truck is just.
I see you in the
disgusting,
background.
But it's okay.
I see you.
Getting rid of it. Now, when I tell you I passed out, I knocked out so fast last night. I still look like yesterday, wearing the same thing. I didn't
Alright.
even start my car. I didn't even eat. I knocked out. And I
About to
feel like
bring
I'm
you
getting
up.
sick
No,
again.
no
I don't know what is
hippie.
happening now. I never get sick. So for me to be sick that long, it's crazy. But we're gonna start the car up. Ooh, he knows every time when he sees my car.
Let me pause her.
Like he's all excited. What? Where do you think we're going? I'm scared to even go anywhere in the car, to be honest, because the weather isn't the best.
There we go. Alright. Boom. Alright. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Loud and clear. Good, good, good. Man, how you been doing, man?
Chilling just on this home time.
I know that's right. Ain't no time like home time, baby. Yeah, man. So I had asked that question, man, about the culture shift. You had spoke on that. Like, why do you think there's such a big shift in the culture at Prime Inc., man?
Well, first, let me just talk about it like this. So, first of all, a lot of the people that you hear that are kind of frustrated aren't the newer people, right? Because the
Right.
newer people don't know no better, all that kind of stuff. So, a lot of times it's just some of the older drivers, things like that. The new drivers, a lot of the stuff that they're complaining about is just self-inflicted. Like they don't. A lot of that's just not knowing the job or doing the job correctly or not maximizing where you can. So, um, so if anybody's going to ask me, can you make money at Prime? Well, the answer to that is yeah. The problem is if you just have a company where your entire, it doesn't matter if it's trucking or whatever kind of company, but let's just say trucking, where your entire workforce is only there for the money. As soon as that money's not around, now you got problems. Now you got people complaining. And at one point, the culture of Prime was so strong that, you would get washed out by people that, like, for example, like you just brought up this Everlay or whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah.
There was a time when that voice wouldn't even have been heard at Prime because there were too many people, that were having too good of experiences for that to happen. And now you have, there's some pretty big people that were on YouTube that you just don't see as visible anymore. And that's not by coincidence, I wouldn't say, but why is it happening? If you just listen, I'm not even saying this stuff is wrong. Okay. So I'm just saying it's noticeable when, like, even a lot of it's just, if you ever have your wife or girlfriend tell you, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, or some shit like that. If you look at just some of the meetings, like the last part of the last meeting where, they're saying, we're going to go out and we're going to get cameras and we're going to do all this stuff because we're going to do it to be the safest people on the road. You could have stopped right there, but then it was like, and we make no apologies for that. You know what I mean? So it's just like that last little dig. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
So I just don't think people care as much anymore. And that's where a lot of the problems come. So now you have people that just flat out don't care. I mean, literally don't.
So when you say people, are you talking about management, drivers?
No, I'm talking about drivers. I'm talking about drivers.
Okay.
And, I don't think they go out of their way to be late or anything like that. But if they want to oversleep or if they're tired, there's just not that same. Nobody could put their finger on it, but everybody could point back to 2 or 3 years ago. And a lot of people say it came out of that whole COVID era. And what happened during that period of time?
What, man, look, almost every driver that I speak to, whether it's Prime or just anybody, man, like that money that was coming through that COVID period, it was such a gravy train. And then when it stopped, I don't think we fully adjusted. You know what I'm saying? A lot of drivers didn't know how to adjust after that period,
You know what? That's true. But, I talked to somebody in-house that was in-house during that COVID time, and there was like a fracturing of the in-house personnel. There was like, and it was just over corny shit. It was like you had the vaccine people and the non-vaccine people, and they'd be snitching on each other about,
man.
you had your mask off for more than 30 seconds when you without eating or, whatever it was. I heard a lot of that stuff going on. And then the one thing I never wanted to do as a parent was put my kids against each other. And as soon as you started saying, we have to put locks on trailers, and, if you see somebody without a lock on a trailer, then, call safety or your fleet manager. Now you got people that are, as soon as you start turning your drivers against each other, that creates a problem. So, I mean, that was like one of the very first things. And it's just been little by little where things have kind of been happening. And I'm not saying and I'm not even saying that the policy to have the lock on the trailers is right, wrong, or whatever. But once you start having that infighting within the community, then it becomes an issue. And then you started seeing a lot more negative stuff on Facebook. It's just been like a cascade of all this stuff.
Mm.
So
What's your
it's
thoughts
really
on
hard to
the
put.
what's your thoughts on the scanning of the bills like that? The
Okay,
loaded
that's.
calls, yeah.
Customer 80. Your shower is ready.
I've always thought that that was a little bit much. Like it would be fine if. So here's what I'll say. So they'll say
Hey, hey, pick your words, man.
they'll say, make yourself available and, all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff. And,
yeah.
the problem is everybody, they want us to be available 24 hours a day. But when it's time to do some of this stuff, there's nobody around. So
Mhm.
like when you pick up a load, depending on when you pick it up or what the circumstances are, where you are,
Mhm.
you could be needing to hurry up and park somewhere before the truck stops fill up, or you might just want to get going because you're working on your 14-hour clock. But now I'm scanning all these bills and then I'm waiting 15, 20 minutes on the phone for somebody to answer for that live loaded call. So if the call was getting answered in a timely fashion, maybe that's not as big of an issue, but nobody seems to think that that's an issue.
Yeesh.
And this has been brought up for years and nobody's really taken account. So I mean, it's really just little stuff. Like it's not like there's no big thing. Like, well, the cameras were, but at this
Okay.
point, like with all the changes, the cameras is like the least of the worries. It's just like every time you turn around, there's something new that's happening, and that's why I really try not to speak specifically
Yeah.
about Prime anymore, because I don't know what the
Wow.
what the next change is going to be. When I had multiple trucks on at Prime, then they're like saying, well, now you can only keep the truck for so many years. Well, damn. You know what I'm saying? Like as soon as you start trying to get some traction on your fleet, now all of a sudden you're not able to do that. Or now you can't pull from the company driver pool. So it's almost like they're kind of trying to, I don't know. I don't know what some of the reasoning behind it was, but it just seems like it seems like there's a direction, but there's no clear. How can I explain it?
When I was talking with Trucker Percy, she was saying like the communication is very poor, from management to the drivers, and there needs to be like a liaison that's going to be in the middle to share information, and that's like a breakdown, communication.
Well, I mean, I guess that could be true too, and a lot of it is just how you communicate. So you have a lot of people that have been at Prime for a long time, and they might have college degrees and all this kind of stuff, but they never really worked in a business where you actually had to, like, you had. How can I like? I think that working at a company, and it could be Prime, it could be almost any trucking company, what you say has almost no consequences behind it. Like I came out of businesses where you just you had to handle things in a different way, because you may not have had unlimited employees ready to come in and take the place of somebody else, or you didn't want to lose your top person. Like in reality, if you lose your top driver, you aren't like if I was a mortgage manager and I lost my top salesperson, I could be losing directly 15% of my income potentially, right?
Yeah.
If I'm I think I'm a decent driver. If I was to say, forget it, I'm leaving Prime. I mean, the difference between me and the worst truck driver isn't that big of a spread. Like I might be a little bit safer. I might, whatever, but there's certain headaches that are going to come along with the driver that's got a little bit more experience too. They might not take some, certain loads, or they might want to, I don't know. There's not
Nah,
a
you going
real
somewhere with
reason.
it. I like where you're going with it. Go ahead. You're doing
Well,
good.
there's not a real reason for like me leaving or the driver that's there. that's been there 30 years, either one of us could leave, and them hiring a brand new person and pulling them up to speed within 6 months is not going to be that big of a difference.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So they don't have to have that same tact that I would have when I'm talking to, people that were, my salespeople or something like that, because
Mm-hmm.
you pissing off, it was you would see it directly hit you a little bit more. Or if you had a bad salesperson, it would hit you more. But
Yeah.
uh,
You would
anyway,
you would
that's
think you would think that the driver, well, I don't know, management, they would see, okay, this driver, he's been or she's been with us for 10 years, they're always on time, no service failures, just great driver. They would hold some weight, and some type of say so. You would think that though, right? But the fact that, Prime will look at a driver year 10 the same as year one, it, it can leave a sour taste in a person's mouth.
well, I mean, I think at the fleet manager level, they recognize that a little bit more. So, I mean, I'm not saying that my fleet manager wouldn't, that's a different dynamic. But once you get past that,
Yeah.
once you get past that line right there, then it's kind of like it almost doesn't matter. And there's there's nothing wrong with that as long as that's what, like I said, new people that came in under this different system, there's nothing wrong with that. For those of us that have been there a little bit longer,
Yeah.
we just need to adjust to that situation. And it's sad to see some of these people going,
Man.
that have been around a lot longer, than I have, and heard them talk about, some of the changes and stuff they've had. And basically, I mean, they got people betting on me they're betting, like, am I going to leave first before Jim C or Freight Skater? And I would say, looking from the outside, you'd probably say me, but I'm too set in my ways, man. I'm not chasing the money. I mean, there is a point where the headaches could be too much, but I'm not sure what that would be. But
Are you thinking about starting another fleet?
hell, they don't want that shit over there. The only way that would make sense would be to start a fleet, spin it up, and then put it on the A fleet side or take it out of Prime somewhere else. But just running it and going to the A fleet takes away some of the benefit that I'm there for. I want low headaches. That's it. So I'm not like at Prime because it's the most money. I'm there right now because, I got a paid off truck. I got a good fleet manager. I don't really have to worry about. I mean, it's sad. It is bad. I mean, it's not bad. It's sad when I'm talking to somebody that's been there.
Go ahead.
Well, I can't say some of this because I'll be putting people on the spotlight that are
Okay.
Even more high profile than I. It's just sad when you're talking people that, have been around a long, long time, and they're just sad about the situation that's going on. And like I said, nobody really can put their finger on what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's the hard part.
Yeah, because it's not just one specific thing. It's like a domino effect of like many things, and it's just a perfect
Or
storm.
death by 1,000 cuts.
Man, damn, that's rough, man. That's tough, dog. Do you want to speak on this right here? Sounds like same people calling dispatch about the locks for $100 finder's fee. So y'all got some. Is it that bad over
I don't
there?
know if I don't know if they were. I don't think they were. As far as I know, they weren't paying people. But that's beside the point. That even makes it worse. Actually, you know what I'm saying? But
Sheesh.
I mean, just some of the stuff. Well, here's the problem: is it's almost like their
Mm,
policies are okay. If you ever know anything about like let's say you're in a Marine Corps unit and you come back from overseas and then you get some new guys, the training is going to be dumbed down to the lowest person until they get caught up to speed. And I think that's what's happening a lot at Prime. So a, a lot of it should be common sense. You know, I almost broke my ass in Milwaukee at a Blue Beacon because I was concerned about putting a lock on my trailer at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm driving to, another 45 minutes to go pick up a load.
hmm
And it's like some of this shit should be just common sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
all right, my next, I'm not stopping between here and there, but because they're speaking down to the lowest person, they have to put these like policies in effect, sort of like the same way, like if you're teaching somebody how to drive in the mountains in snow, what's the easy thing to tell somebody? Don't use your jakes. Why? Because you're talking down to the lowest person. When using jakes in the snow is like perfectly, actually, it's sometimes preferable in certain situations.
hmm
Or like if I'm talking to my son about something, I might, when he was growing up, I might just tell him, you know what, don't do that. Just because saying don't do that's a lot easier than me to explain how a different way for him to do, a different way that he could do it. So I
Mm.
think we got a lot of those policies. I mean, we're losing
Oh,
loads over stupid shit. Like temperature, like if a trailer goes out, that's one thing. But if
hmm
you have a
yeah,
temperature set on the wrong setting, or
yeah.
like some of this stuff is just common sense.
So, what's the policy? Because I forgot. Like, if you I don't know, if the trailer gets rejected, like if the temperature was supposed to be set at 32, and then you get there and it's at, I don't know, 20. Like, what happens after that?
I
Is
don't
there
know
like
because I've
a
never had it.
me either? Sheesh. Okay. So I'm assuming since you had your fleet, you never had any of your trucks or trailers to
Well, I
go back.
did. Well, it was a different situation, and luckily this shit went over uh, on Qualcomm. But there was the question about a load that the the delivery address had our drop yard on it, which was across the street from this cold storage place.
hmm
So my driver over at Qualcomm said, "I'm a little confused. Am I supposed to take this to the cold storage place or you know, the
Drop
drop
yard.
yard or something like that?" And then this
hmm
was the this was a night dispatcher that nobody liked, and I think he ended up getting fired over this.
Oh man.
But he dropped it at the drop yard. The somebody for some reason turned the reefer off, so it was like a ice cream load that was a total loss.
Ooh.
So when they started trying to figure out what was going on, they were like
hmm
almost coming at me for the whole fucking thing. Like not the deductible, like the whole thing. Luckily all that stuff was in writing,
Okay.
so it didn't fall on us. But that's about as close as I came to a
Okay.
claim or anything like that.
Okay. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
technically, it's still like I'll keep saying it.
hmm
Technically, it's a good company, and I think that had Kersey,
hmm
Romaine's a little different. Had Kersey just started there maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, I don't think she would be leaving right now. Or let's say 2 years ago, even I don't
Yeah.
think she
Yeah.
would be.
Have you
I
had a
mean, I
chance
could
to
be
watch
wrong.
her kind of farewell or why she
Yeah,
left Prime Video? Yeah. You mind going through it with me? Let's check it out right quick because she was kind of speaking on some stuff in the video, and I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting that she would say that because she was like, man, I don't feel, but she can explain it a little bit better than I would though. Let's go here.
Year and a half, I haven't really been recruiting. Is I don't know what Prime's going to do from one week to the next.
Right, and that sounded like it kind of spoke to some of your um.
Well,
There we go. Okay. All right.
Videos too much because I don't want to come across as somebody who's dark and dreary and just, blaming. And I was hoping that it was going to be like growing pains of people who, were just newly placed in high up positions. Because I don't know what Prime's going to do from one week to the next. Hi guys, and welcome to Trucking Along with Kirsty. That's me,
I
your
got to
positive
sped up
voice in
too.
trucking. And it's been a little while, and I have some major news, and it's not clickbait. I have left Prime Inc. I turned in my truck today. It's been almost 10 years. I had originally intended on staying at Prime my entire trucking career.
Hey, Trucker Hippie, how long have you been at Prime?
let's see. Like just under 6.5 years,
Okay. Okay.
somewhere in there. And
moved
wait,
to
before you
Springfield
get
a
back
few
with
years
Kirsty,
ago.
she's in
Go
a
ahead.
different situation than me. So she's always had more, she's always been a little bit more integrated into the Prime culture
Mm.
than I have, whether it be because she's, all that highway diamonds and driver advisory board and all that kind of stuff. So she probably feels all this stuff even more than like most people that you're going to see that are at Prime right now, just because she was that involved in it.
Yeah,
So,
she was definitely in the culture, man. So I know that she probably felt slighted, when her voice isn't heard.
With the intent to go in-house, and that's just not in the cards for me anymore. Over the years, people have said to me, it's just a starter company, you can make more money other places, you don't know what's out there that's so great. And people would tell me, oh, you're drinking the Kool-Aid, or oh, you're just doing it for recruiting. And
Hey, speak on some of that Kool-Aid over there at Prime Inc.
man,
Trucker
I'm telling you,
Hippie.
man, you go back to, okay, so the guy that trained me at Prime is coming back to Prime, and I might be going out there to train him, right? One of the
Mhm.
reasons I was even thinking about, well, first of all, he's the only one I would do it for, but part of the reason that I was wondering why I was so kind of almost excited about it was, getting back with him, obviously, since he's the one that did it with me. But
Mhm.
it reminded me of that culture back in the day when I first got there. That stuff, I'm just telling you, it is ridiculous. Like, you can't put your finger on what it was like to be at Prime back in them days, but it was just something you couldn't put a finger on. And
Man.
a lot of it I just attributed because, a lot of people would recognize me. So it always felt like if I was at the terminal, I was talking to somebody, right?
Hmm.
So I felt like even more about that than maybe some. But even just stuff like if you're just driving, and a truck's coming along the other way, then you're always waving at each other. If you're at shippers and receivers and somebody's struggling, then you're gonna help them, or whatever it is. That has kind of gone away, and I don't know if that part of it is. I don't know. So yeah, the Kool-Aid was
Damn
definitely,
good,
yeah.
to say the
the
least.
truth was that the Kool-Aid was sweet. It was really sweet. And I made a lot of money. A lot of money. Okay. I've never hidden the fact that I made a lot of money from the recruiting, but I believed in what I was doing. Prime sort of put me in a little bit of a position where I could help people. And I love that. It was awesome. I could help people. I could help students. I could help drivers that were new. I was able to, if there was a problem between a trainer and a student, I was able to go send a message to, somebody, the powers that be in management, and things would get taken
No
care of.
hippie. Are you training at the moment? Do you train or what?
No, I'm just, like I said, the guy that trained me left the trucking industry for about 2 years, and he wants to come. He came back to Prime, so he needs somebody to put some miles in with him. So that's the only reason I'm potentially leave
Mm,
home early and go back out to pick him up.
you know what? I'm kind of glad that you. So you're thinking about team driving, right? Know what you said?
Just to get his miles, not because I wanted, you know.
You know, I also have a theory, right? Because you know that the automated trucks are coming, and the driverless trucks are coming. And I think what's his name? Trucker Richie has said it too, to kind of battle that, or to I guess subdue it, if you will, or compete. You're gonna have to like team drive sooner or later, you know what I'm saying, to compete with the autonomous trucks. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Autonomous trucks would be the like. I'm not sure that's an immediate worry, but you know that when everybody's talking about freight slow, why are they hiring all these people, and why
Hmm.
are they well, if you don't hire people, you don't have the teams. There's your teams right there. You don't have a bunch of husband and wives out there teaming, or you don't have a bunch of friends out there
Hmm.
teaming. Your teams at Prime primarily are coming from training. That's why you can't just stop hiring drivers.
Let me ask you this: should Prime Inc. switch up their recruiting method to maybe team drivers, like focus on team and on couples and individuals, kind of like how in the Army they used to do the buddy system? I'm not sure if the Marines did that, but go about that route like a buddy system.
And the only way that they'd be shit, the only people that can pull that off are companies that are hiring people that nobody else will hire. You know what I mean? Like CRST. I don't think a lot of those. I don't know if CRST is a strictly teaming company
Hmm.
anymore, but I know at one point, you were gonna have to team, and the only reason you
Yeah.
were at CRST was if you had some bodies or some accidents or something on you.
All right, let's go ahead and go for it.
Prime has had several key positions have been opened and replaced due to people's retirements, because here at Prime, people have a tendency to stay for decades. And even the drivers all stayed for decades. But the past year and a half to 2 years, Prime has really changed. It's not the company that I worked for so many years. Despite drivers trying to get that through to management keeps reiterating to us that Prime hasn't changed, that the policies haven't changed, but you feel it in the air when you walk into the building. You feel it when you're watching, the safety meeting on YouTube every week. As a company driver, I don't personally feel wanted anymore. Prime is almost mostly it's mostly independent contractors, and it just feels like company drivers are an afterthought.
Is Prime making it a? Are they trying to get rid of the company driver altogether? Is that what they're trying to do?
I don't know. I don't. I wouldn't say so actively, but it's you would find it odd that back when I first came to Prime, I think it was like 70% leased, 30% company, or somewhere, some mix like that. And that was in a good market. So I don't know how in a bad market somehow it's leaned even more to the lease side. I would have assumed that it would have kind of skewed a little bit more to the company side. So I don't know. I don't think, like, I've never had anybody say that they're forcing me to go lease or something like that. So I haven't heard that, but it is kind of odd that now is the time when you start seeing it so lease heavy in this market.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go
But
for it.
I haven't
We're
met
not
anybody who
thought
said they
of.
felt like they were pushed.
Okay, okay. And what's the like? What would you say like the percentage of lease to company drivers? Is it like 20, 20/80,
Yeah,
thirty
I don't
70?
know. Seems like it's like 85-15. I don't know.
Mm,
Kiersey might know that, but I have no idea what that is. I just know that it's not as many as it used to be because they had company driver fleet managers leaving to go to, they consolidated that a bit.
mm, gotcha.
Until the end of the year when open enrollment. Thank you. And this year was the first year at the Christmas party where tables of experienced drivers sat around, people that have been here for 10, 15, 20 years, sat around eating the steak and the crab legs and the lobster at Prime Throne Christmas party. And the main point of discussion was, what company are you going to go to next? That's sad. I used to come home when I was on the backing pad. I would come home at night. I would say, wow, this is the best job in the world. I have the best job. I get to help people. I get to fix problems. I get to help people get their CDLs, and, they get to bail themselves out of debt, like what happened with me. But it was also a lot of freedom that we had at Prime. And that's, I used to get people that would say to me, well, you're micromanaged. And I didn't feel micromanaged because my thing was just drive well. Critical events was speeding, which the only way you can speed in a Prime truck is go downhill too
All
fast.
right. Hey, how about that? How about speak on being micromanaged? Do you feel like you're micromanaged? Do you feel like some like you had a you're perfect, man, because you own the fleet. Did some of your drivers complain about being micromanaged? Can you speak on
Well,
that?
my fleet manager was not the micromanaging type.
Okay.
Like my fleet manager, you gotta look for his ass. Like he's like you ain't like he's hands off. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're trying to call him, it's hard to really get through. So I don't feel it at that level. Even if I get a load and it's like, you know what, you need to call in before this load, I just send a message and say, hey, do I need to call in for this, or just close it out? And it's
Mhm.
always, it's closed, or whatever it is. So I mean, I don't feel that from the fleet manager level. It's just these policies that have came in above that level. So it's above the fleet manager level. It's at the well, the cameras, I guess, could be micromanaging the new system where, like, how hard is it? You go pick up a fucking produce load and
Mhm.
you just can't sit in front of that dock for forever while you're scanning in, you know, 14, 20 pages of, bills, you know. So, that became a little bit micromanaging
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if I feel micromanaged. I wouldn't say that that's the feeling that I get.
Okay.
But a lot of that's because my fleet manager, a lot of people send me messages that their fleet manager sends them. And I'm like, man, my fleet manager would never send anything like that, because some of the stuff that I would see that people are saying, fleet managers are sending their entire fleet. It'd be different if it was one guy, but it was just like total disrespect. And I was like, I would never expect that from my fleet manager. So I think a lot of it has to do with who your fleet manager is, stuff
Right.
like that.
Right. Let me see. Life on 18 wheels. Shout out to you. You said Prime lost its touch. Yeah, man. It seemed like that culture shift that's real big, man, and losing its touch. You want to double down on that, quadruple down on it, or you good?
Yeah, no, I've already gone into that right there.
Yep. Yep. Let's go with this next comment. It says, P.S. Godson. Shout out to you. As truck drivers, no matter how long you stay with a company or get a million miles, they never letting us eat at the corporate table. The picnic tables are out back with the hot dogs. Man, you want to go ahead and speak on that
No,
one? No, no
I
hippie.
don't know about that. I think I think even in today's like culture, if you're gonna say there's a culture shift, I do think that from that aspect, like,
Mhm.
man, I haven't felt that way, but what I will say is a lot of the stuff that goes on at Prime, whether it's company picnics or dinners or any of that kind of stuff, or the
Mhm.
terminal itself, that's not made for no drivers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you're a driver taking advantage of all that stuff, then you're the driver. You're the driver that's not putting in that real work. Like if you're going to all the picnics and all the galas, not, you know,
You need
you're
more
probably
miles.
not. You're probably not doing all that well. But they do put it out there for you, so I can't say that I felt like I was at the kiddie table. I just never felt like going there. And I've actually
Okay.
been at the terminal when they've had like, some of the picnics, and I was just like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Mhm. Yeah, okay.
Taking turns like curves too fast. following distance, hard braking. If you're a good driver, you don't get those types of situations. So even that didn't feel micromanaged. But now, to me, it seems like instead of putting more emphasis on training, they are putting more emphasis on reactions. And I think they've always been a reactionary company instead of a proactive company.
All right, so could you give me some clarification what she probably was thinking about right there? A reactionary type of company.
Oh, this is the easy one. So
Okay.
2 years before this whole thing so this personal conveyance thing
Okay.
started becoming a problem like 2 years before they even started bringing it up in safety meetings, right?
hmm
And I knew that because I'm one of those drivers that every time I'm at the terminal, 3 people I see, my logs advisor, my fleet manager, and my payroll person. Every single time I go to the terminal, I make it my point to stop by there. And not just to say some bullshit, but to have a meaningful conversation. So one of the conversations I was having with my logs advisor, who's since retired,
hmm
she was talking about how bad things were and how we're about to get audited or something like that by the DOT and everything.
hmm
And I was like, well, why aren't they fucking doing anything about it? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know. So what happens is it's sort of like, and this could be the logs, this could be the cameras, this could be a number of different things. But it's sort of like this. It's sort of like them weak ass parents out there that let their kids like keep doing some bullshit, and then finally they hit the last straw and they go damn near beat them to death. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? They overreact about some stuff they should have been nipping in the bud way back when.
Okay.
So
Overcorrect.
it didn't even need to get to this point with the logs or the cameras, but you let shit get too far out of hand and then you got to overreact to bring it back in. And as far as the cameras go,
hmm
or even the camera situation, it's doing what it needs to do. Like,
hmm
well, I don't think our scores are going up all that much as far as the regular inspections go. We're not getting the handheld devices or anything like that.
hmm
But, one thing I've said in my videos is that's like me locking my teenage daughter in her room till she's 21 years old and then bragging that she's a virgin.
Right. You didn't really do anything. You didn't teach her anything. Just yeah.
So, yeah.
I got you. That's
They've always been bad at communications. I've said that over the years. But when I felt like I could help with that communication and I could share with other YouTubers and we could put out changes or information that drivers needed, it made me feel good. I felt empowered, if you will. And now I don't feel that way anymore. And part of it is I don't know what Prime's going to do from one week to the next. People will call me up and say, well, will Prime do this? Will Prime do that? I don't know. Last summer, somebody was about to upgrade flatbed and he was told he couldn't upgrade to go solo. He had to go teaming and he wasn't told that before he came in. And when he told that to me, I went and found out from the flatbed fleet managers at the time that they were going to enforce teaming after a certain date. But it wasn't communicated properly. So students were like about to upgrade and they were all up in arms. They didn't know what was true and what wasn't. Then a fleet manager will put out a message that says, hey, everybody has to team because we don't have any trucks. And you're going to, and then a couple weeks later, it's, oh no, that wasn't the case. That was only for a couple weeks. Well,
all right. Yeah, because I remember that kind of situation that happened. Um, what happened there, man? When it was like, okay, you guys gonna have to team, and then it was like, okay, we reneged on that. Y'all don't have to team.
I think that was one of the times when the backlash became too much. That was around the time that Romaine was upgrading, Romaine the trucker. He had upgraded right before that message came out. So, I was talking to Romaine, and at the time it was like he was getting the feeling, or not necessarily him, people were getting the feeling that they really didn't want company drivers around. So I went to Romaine and I was like, all right, man, I'm thinking about shutting my shit down, but I got these 2 trucks that are paid off. You seem to have the right temperament. If you want to step on one, I'll let you ride with me and you'll make, a lot more money than you're making company. So he's like, all right, bet. So then and actually it's probably a blessing in disguise. I've never felt so free in my fucking life. But then he comes back to me and he's like, yo, in his Jamaican accent, they won't let me go, or something to that effect. So they were basically blocking blessings. Like, who knows how many miles he would have been getting. I don't know, how that would have shaped up, but he would have been making a whole lot more money per mile to make up for, any lack of miles he was getting.
Yeah.
I think I was actually going to do him at like a flat 70 or something like that.
Okay.
Because I had a couple different pay plans where, you got paid less cents per mile, but you got paid more for drops. And then if you stayed out, it was an extra $100 a week past so many weeks. So, but I think, I was just going to do like a straight 70 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
And
no hippie. Have you thought about like teaching like a course over there at Prime?
they don't want nobody. Listen, they got their people that they want to teach their courses.
10-4.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you think, so Kiersey said that she was going to volunteer to give some course or, whatever for women or whatever, a lot of the problems a lot of things that could be changed in the training department is that there's nothing that's the same, right? Like every trainer is going to train a student completely different. There's not even like a guideline to it.
There's no standard.
Yeah. So I think Junior had like some checklist or something like that he, and it was like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know why they don't have like a standard format as far as the training goes. That seems like it would be a simple thing to get. And I think that the money in training, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of people I know that are training are still making good money. Maybe not quite to, like when I was training, it was like $6,000 a week or more, whatever. But even in today's environment, I think that the money is there. But the problem is when we start talking about the culture is the voices of the people that are failing are louder than the voices of the people that are succeeding because nobody has the same pride to be even debating the shit. Like before, somebody said some stupid shit on Facebook or whatever, you'd have people like, you want to talk about what's some Beyonce people, the Beehive or whatever. It was sort of like that. And now you have so many people that are, you don't have that type of reaction anymore. And you have people turned off to training without really even knowing about it because all this put out there is the bad information. You don't hear about the drivers that are, still doing above average.
And you know what? It wasn't like that, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, because, whenever you pull up Prime Inc., it was always the positive stuff and a whole bunch of it too, back to back. All right, let's go ahead and look a little bit more because I'm about to pick my load up. I just got
then say that.
message.
It's just really lousy communication that really could have been taken care of really easily. Prime has an astronomical number of drivers who are on YouTube, on social media. They could have utilized us like a press conference. We're always hurting for content, so if there's a change coming about and you want us to recruit, which by the way, I've made a lot of money in recruiting, but if you watch my channel in the last year and a half, I haven't really been recruiting and I haven't been training.
So do you think Prime could do a better job at utilizing their veteran drivers? Like, could they do a better job at that? I don't know. Maybe PR, whatever.
You don't even need to do that. Most of the stuff wasn't even sent out through a fleet message or, a fleet manager's message would solve most of these problems. Like, for example, people that or have the ACE, the true lease purchases, or their truck is paid off, that now they're making us jump through a bunch of hoops and stuff like that to get work done on our truck.
Man.
And nobody
So y'all
knew
can't
about that.
so y'all can't just go to the terminal and get work done?
No, it needs to be approved or whatever. I mean, it's for, to me, some of this stuff is so what I'm sure people have got work done on their truck and bounced out and left Prime. But it's this simple. Either you have a emergency fund and a maintenance fund, and if you have your truck in the shop and they say, okay, why don't you move $3,500 over to the maintenance account before you are allowed to leave the terminal, or before you could pick up your truck at the shop or something like that. That's an easy fix for it. But just saying you got to jump through all these hoops and get with your fleet manager, and then if it's over this amount, then you got to talk to this other guy who doesn't know nothing about you, or it's just, man.
And it ain't always been like that, right?
No, it's but this just came up. But my point was, this didn't get sent out through email, or it didn't get sent out as a fleet message until it was already in place, and people were already coming back with the
information,
with the intelligence on the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like, hey man, I just went up here and they said I needed to do this. And then finally, after this had gone on for about a week or 10 days, then the message comes out.
Mm-hmm.
You could have just sent that out with the message. I think what they're afraid of is, with YouTube people, is, they want people to portray the right message, and she fits into that role. There's, Junior Honduras fit in that role, so I would say maybe pick and choose. I mean, potentially, but I don't even think that's needed, personally.
Okay. So I'm about to go ahead and wrap it up. So we kind of touched on communication could be improved. You say you don't experience micromanagement, but micromanaging is a thing. What else you kind of see there are some opportunities for Prime Inc. to improve?
I mean, I just think it's not too late to get back to where things were, and like I keep saying, it's technically a good company from a mechanical aspect. I think that what happens is, a lot of people in upper management, to me, it feels like they feel like their backs are up against the wall. So some people would feel like that makes me more aggressive. So that's where you get the, like, if you don't like it, then maybe it's time to come up with the exit strategy, or, we don't apologize. Maybe this time to just be like, we understand where you guys are coming from, and listen, we hate to do this stuff as much as you, but this is kind of, just a little more empathy rather than, raw dogging it a little bit too much.
Stern with it. Yeah. Hey,
and I think that is the one thing I could truly say, that everybody I've talked to, whether they've been there, I talked to a guy that's, just got there like maybe a few months ago, to the people that have been there years and years, is that a little, that bedside manner that they talk about in hospitals and stuff like that. Or, if you want to tell your wife some shit she's not going to like, you don't just go out there and just say, you know what? Things aren't going all that good. We're gonna have to sell your car, and I ain't making no apologies for it. If you empathize with people enough, they'll let you have the leeway. I mean, that's why Rob Lowe had people driving without getting paid for like 2 weeks or whatever it was back in the day when he was about to lose the company.
Yeah. Hey, Midlife Trucker says, look like you got a hippie on the channel. It says,
what's up, Midlife?
He says, as long as there is a crowd of yellow vests at every Friday meeting, it isn't going to change. man.
Hey, Tom Bell, I'd mentioned that earlier. Like they could lose me, and they you might hire a newer driver that might make more mistakes or whatever, but really the difference in the long run, 5 months down the line, is gonna be minimal.
Hey, does Prime still have that driver? What is it called? It's like they speak for the drivers. It's drivers that speak for the drivers.
Man, Kiersey was on that. Yeah, they still got that. Listen, we need some people on that. Like, I can't do it because I would like straight up get fired in that because I know people that have been there. And I would need to be talking about some real stuff, not like not like some of the stuff they're talking about. And I do know somebody that went there and that was his struggle, that they always wanted to revert down to these things that weren't really issues, but they were like, it was like a distraction. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
can we get a ping pong table? Like, let's distract you from all this other stuff over here that actually matters.
That's crap. So
they do have it.
Yeah. Do they
And
rotate?
hey, you can find they used to post the minutes to those meetings online. So if you were to like Google like Prime Inc. Driver Advisory Board minutes, you might be able to find some from way back when, so you could see some of the stuff they were talking about. And I'm looking at those minutes and I'm like, these guys are just burning up time in there.
Oh man.
I mean, hey, I'll go to the Driver Advisory Board for some free drinks and some food, but it's got to be a little deeper.
Yeah.
Google
Yeah,
that.
little stuff.
Google that.
Little stuff like lines in the parking lot and TV channels. Oh man. Okay, so how do they go about picking those driver advisory board? How do they go about that?
Well, first of all, a lot of times it's just not going to be, it will be people that are on YouTube, but it's going to be those very vanilla people that are on YouTube.
Gotcha.
Nobody
who's really going to push anything, right?
All right. And I think that they check all your social media type stuff and everything like that, which is another thing that, the social media thing, I kind of look at that like if everything was being done right or everything was right, you wouldn't have to be worried about what people are saying on social media. So
100%.
that,
100%.
But I could see if because at Prime you got people in these Facebook groups talking all kinds of crazy shit that ain't got nothing to do with trucking. That kind of stuff I understand. Like, you see a bunch of this racial bullshit or sexist or just stupidity going on over there. I can understand that. But if people have like legitimate complaints about, how their week went or what their fleet manager did, that shouldn't keep anybody from, being on the board or being rehired, because sometimes they'll block you from being rehired because of what you said on social media before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. No Hippie, you have been great. I'm about to go ahead and shut this thing down, man. Any last closing remarks before we close this thing out?
Nope, I'm out. Have a good night.
All right. Hey, appreciate you, bro. Hey, let's do this again sometime.
All right, man.
Yep, peace. All right, man. So that's your boy, man. I appreciate it. Midlife Trucker, I appreciate you checking in too, man. I saw the video that was posted in the private group, one of the last Friday meeting. Hilarious. Yeah, man. Hey, we're just trying to get to the root of why Prime is what's going on with Prime. You know what I'm saying? What's good, what's bad, what's wrong, what's right, and try to get Prime back on the right track, man, because a lot of veteran drivers, they're losing a lot of good drivers and a lot of veteran drivers who are great drivers, man, and they don't want to see the culture at Prime Inc. go down so bad, man. So thank everybody for tuning in. We're gonna do this again real soon, guys. I appreciate y'all checking in. This is Big Money Trucker, man, AK Harrison. Hey, till next time, we out. Peace.